Hey guys, Liam here from Primal Nomad. I've got two wild wood pigeons here, so I just want to do a bit of preparation on these to show you how to get them into either two breasts or as a whole bird. Now there's a few various different ways of doing this, and one of the ways that I've seen for removing breasts is quite simply to pluck this out, run a cut down here, separate the breasts, and obviously the rest of the bird then is, disposed of. And then if you've got a fairly, decent sized bird, sometimes it might be nice to put this on a spit and utilise a whole bird like a small chicken.
The wood pigeon, or Columba polumbus, is the UK's largest and most common pigeon. They can weigh upwards of 550 grams with a wingspan of up to 80 centimetres. There's estimated to be over 5.5 million breeding pairs in the UK, and although they're considered to be pests or vermin, their meat is really underrated. It provides a good source of protein, zinc, vitamin B and selenium, and although their meat is high in cholesterol, in a survival situation, that's exactly what you need.
So really the process to start with on any bird is just to start plucking. So feathers obviously grown down the bird here, so you want to go against it, you want to just start pulling, being careful not to try and rip the skin, it can be quite fragile. So start by just pulling, and this should come out fairly easily. And as you start getting down here, some of the feathers will need pulling out the other way. So it's really just a case of working with what you've got. And sometimes use your thumb here to just keep pressure against the skin, and that would just save any of these really kind of fragile areas here, especially around the leg where it could start to tear. So you can see here actually where it's caught a bit of shot, that the skin is starting to tear there. So it's just a case of being careful. And again, just turn it here. You can see how the feathers now start to come out of this general area. Now what you can do with a pigeon is actually just give it a little rip here to open up its crop. And just see what it's been feeding on. It can be a little bit tough in there. As you can see in here, it's actually quite empty. There's a few little bits of clover and leaf in there, but actually not too much. There's no grains in there or anything. So you want to then turn her onto the back, the same process. You can see it's quite a messy job, so it's good to do it outside. You can see just how small they start to get once the feathers are starting to come off. They can be quite deceivingly large. So I normally pluck all the way to the kind of rear end, and I don't really put too much attention into that because that gets cut off and disposed of. Same with its wings. I like to just go up to the corners here of its shoulders. You can see there where it caught another bit of shot, how the skin just tore there. It's quite fragile, so you got to just do with what you've got. Just give this a tiny little more of a clean around here. And what I like to do is I've got this piece of timber here. It's just a log that's been split down. I found it laying on the ground, so I just trimmed it up so it's a bit cleaner. What I like to do is give it a cut just here on its neck, using a baton. Dispose of that, and then spread out its wings. There is a meaty section on the wings just here, so it bends 3 times. Got a bend, and another bend here, and I like to cut on that joint here on the 3rd bend, just ever so slightly. I like to baton when I'm doing this. It just gives a nice clean cut, although you can go for just in the joint and you can run your knife around and pull. So now we can just finish off dressing this area of all the feathers. Now some people do skin birds, but I like to keep the skin on, especially when you're cooking outside, because it keeps moisture in. It's normally where the fat layer is. Some of these feathers around here can be quite tough around the wing area. They can tend to rip the skin a little bit. Especially this one suffered quite a lot of trauma around this side. So next, what I want to do is remove these legs. So you've got a joint here, and what you can do is you can run a knife along here, along the knuckle, and bend. What I like to do is just cut just after this knuckle here. So all you're left with is that to dispose of. And these are only very small bones. Now, the way to gut this animal, which is what's left to do now, is to find this breastplate, which is almost like a shield on over its chest, and it's quite sharp and defined. It kind of goes down to a point here. So if you're going to remove the breasts, which we'll probably do on this one, you'd want to cut down one side of this bone here and start to work that around, leaving you just with a small breast fillet. When you want to gut the bird to leave it whole, you want to run a cut along the bottom of that breastplate, and that will open up the cavity. So pull your legs back, and get your knife in there. Being careful not to nick any of the internals. You can see through there's a little membrane, and there's the internal organs. So what I like to do is just give it a little shake down, so it leaves this membrane open. Again, pull back the leg, just slice through there into that cavity, and again work it back on this side. And there you are. So now you've got an opening into the cavity where all its internal organs are. And this is where it can get a little bit messy. So what I like to do is grab it like this, or in fact at this point you can, just to make it a bit easier, a bit less messy, you can clear this back end up. You can see how that cleans it up really nicely. You've got all the back passage gone, and when you go to gut that, that will come straight through. So really simply, you've got to get your 2 fingers and you've got to go in there and you've got to scoop down. So you could get your fingers inside, and it's a tight space on a pigeon. You can feel the heart right up at the top of the cavity there, and that's what you're really working for. There'll be a membrane in there which is, you know, the diaphragm and the lung, and you can see the guts coming straight out. So I like to push all that through that bottom cavity, pull that out and dispose of that. In here you've got the kidneys and the heart and liver, just to the side there. There's a fair bit of clotting in this bird. It's good to get most of that out if you can. And there's the lung. So you can see how nice and fresh the lung is. Really, really pink. You can just clear that top cavity open, pull out its windpipe, which is all connected here. This is where it gets to be a bit of a messy job. You can see here, there's its throat and its windpipe. That just needs to be disconnected. Follow that down with your finger. That next section can then be cut. You know, saved for a stock or a soup. But pretty much what I'd do now is I'd go and rinse this. That skin here can be folded back over, which gives a nice bird. You know, you can finish off trimming these feathers. But that's how you get a pigeon like a little chicken. So the other way of preparing a pigeon, if you don't want to go through all the process of what I just showed you, taking the whole bird, some people just like the breast meat. So again, it's just really the same kind of principle. You want to start by working against the grain up the bird, pulling the feathers out. And it's a good place to rest it on your leg, really. And all we're looking to do on this one is to expose the breast meat. And again, just be really careful with the skin in certain areas, especially where it's got a bit of shock trauma in here. So you can see it punctured straight through this breast area here. So you want to work them feathers down all the way to the bottom of the breastplate again. The breastplate that I showed you previously, that has the shield point to it. And of course feathers are going to get everywhere and blood is going to get everywhere, but when you're dressing these, you're going to wash them afterwards. If you're going to take them home, you're going to be able to clean them there. And if any smaller feathers are left on when you're going to cook this, it's not too much of a problem. They can always be singed off over a fire. So you can see here how the skin just is starting to get a bit weak there, so I'm just going to keep my eye on that. And I just want to pluck down to just behind the leg here, just around to the shoulder area. And again, you can open up here to see the crop, which is where the food is stored in the pigeon. And again, I can tell in here it feels quite empty. There's nothing left in its neck cavity. But that's a good indication. Sometimes you can open that up and see, you know, berries or some sorts of wild food, and that will give you a good indication of where pigeons are going to feed. So you can keep an eye out on that area and hunt. So once you've exposed the breast area, really it's a case of just working this. Don't need to go any further on this. You can see again there's been some big trauma here where it's been hit quite hard with the shotgun, so it's a case of cutting down. This breast might actually have to be sacrificed just because of the trauma, but we'll have a look once we get in there. So what you want to do here when you just want to get the breasts is you want to make an incision down this centre bone here, just on one side of it for now. And you want to find it and you'll work it along that rib cage down to that breastplate there. Breastplate, sorry, bottom plate. It's quite easy really, once you start feeling it. Work your knife along that edge. And just like you are with any animal butchering, small shallow cuts. Just easing it back around. And again, some areas can get a little bit tricky, especially with the size of the bird, of a pigeon. You want to open it up. Just when you get to this area, sometimes it's easier to turn the bird around, clean up a few of the feathers, and you can see here there's a little fillet here. This is just an extra bit of meat that's not actually attached to the breast meat. Sorry, it gets feathers everywhere in this sort of job. I'm sure everyone who's done this before knows that too well. So this is actually just a little fillet of meat it's not attached to the breast. It does cook slightly different speed or temperature to the rest of the meat, but it's again nevertheless a really good bit of meat to keep. You can normally use it as a little snack while you're cooking on the fire. So again, once you've detached this breast from the rib cage, you then just want to get your knife and run it down that skin that connects to where the wing and the leg would be. Now you have a nice pigeon breast, and you can see just how small they are. So for the rest of the bird it's fairly wasted. I mean, you could take the legs off, but this is a method just for if you want to save the breasts, so you can, you know, do them nicely pan fried or something. So again, same method here, which is run your knife down this breastbone, and can you see how it goes flat down and then starts to curl around where its rib cage is? It's the exact same principle here. Just being careful. So you want to run your knife down, almost run it at an angle inside, so that you're not cutting through the breast meat. You want to run your knife down inside and follow that breast down, and then there we have again that nice different coloured meat which isn't attached to the breast, you can see. And that's just a little fillet. It kind of comes for free with the bird. You can leave that on. So you then want to work that again down until you find the back of the breast fillet. To pull that down until you see that skin separation. So that's where the breast meat has run out. So the breast no longer carries on and you've got that meat. So that's where you want to run your neck down. work that breast back out up to its corner of its wing and backing around, and you can see there, that's what I was mentioning, there's quite a heavy bit of trauma around that area, so you can see there's quite a lot of clotting and it started to pull away there. But that's one way of removing the breasts from a pigeon, and the rest then can be disposed of, and it leaves you with two really nice cuts. So there we have two different ways of how to field dress and prepare a pigeon, and this again could be put over a stick or cooked in the oven, and these breasts can again be cooked in a pan or however you want. They've still got the skin on, which is going to keep them nice and moist. It's got these two little fillets which are again not connected to the breast, but really nice piece of meat nevertheless. So hopefully it inspires you guys to be a bit confident to come out and try this yourself. And again, just don't worry if you rip the skin or something, just work with what you've got. Enjoy, and I'll see you soon.